Yeah, let's take a look through Sushi Saga. First, did anyone get a chance to take a shot at this one? And if so, how was it for you?
I did. I went through your little walkthrough the video that you sent. Um, and I got stuck on one. I got everything except for one part where I can't click on the sushis anymore
Mm.
and add it to my table. So I got stuck on this one little piece, but hopefully we can go through it and I can kind of troubleshoot.
Yeah. Curious. Yeah. Wonder what that is. Awesome. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've been working on it for the past little bit, but I haven't watched the walkthrough video you sent. I was trying to kind of figure some stuff out. I've got all the sushis loaded to the page, but I can't get only 4 at a time to render. So I'm
A great start.
interested. Yeah, I'm like right at this beginning. So
Sweet. How about anyone else?
Yeah, roughly same as Victoria. Started it on own, didn't watch the walkthrough. Was able to get 4 at a time, and I think that's where I was left off.
Awesome. Sweet. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I just pulled it down. So did a npm install. So I'll just walk through it. And anytime at all anything is confusing even a little bit, feel free to stop me and ask questions, or if there's something that you do understand you want to know more about, or any question at all, please feel free to just stop me at any time, and I'll get the chat up over here so I can see that. Cool. Here we go. Share screen. Right. Move y'all over here. Close that out. Where'd you go? Upstairs. Okay. All right, floating meeting controls. Put chat down there. Fantastic. Cool. So this is, get all that stuff down here. This is Sushi Saga. I just cloned it down and did my install. Let's pop it open in code. Awesome. Don't need that anymore. Sweet. So don't care. Cool. So we are, oh, there's no animated GIF on this one. There should be an animated GIF here, but there's not. So we are going to basically use this template they have already, load up some data and display it, and then do some stuff with it. Super specific. So I did my npm install. We can run our server and run start. Do we have a suite? Yeah, we can do that. Great. So I'm going to do this here. I'm going to do npm start well, I'm going to start up the npm run server first. It's going to run our server here. Watch our data file. And I'll pop open a new one and npm start. And so our database, our backend, is running on port 3001. It's doing, what's doing? Exports. Oh, I had this problem before. I had to do, what did I do? I have to install tokenize specifically. I had this problem with another lab I was looking through. Did anyone come up against this? No? Let's see if that works. All right, it's going to give me the other, yep, that's the same one. Oh no, what did I do? Let's see here. Pixel exported, tokenized, loader. Well, that's no good. Mm, I'm going to reinstall that safe parser one more time too. I think it's something to do with a newer version of React is not great at working with old versions. It is great in general. Yeah, some of the old labs I've had trouble with after installing the new one. You know what? I'm going to remove the other one too. And then we put both of those in. And hopefully that works. Install it. And the other one was all right. There we go. No, why? It's doing that thing again. I have the solution for that too, and it is in the start, and I have to look up what it is. Chris, I think, actually found it here. Boom. Moment. Yeah, so I need to add that. Open SSL. Yeah, all sorts of fun stuff when you upgrade. All right, that will do it for sure. Why are we opening a browser in the other window? Oh, so many fun things today. Come on over here. Cool. All right, there we go. Now we can get started. So here's our template. There's our data we're getting, hopefully. Nope. Did we? All right, because we need to get sushis. Great, that's our fantastic. So I think there's 100 here. Awesome. Cool. So let's look at what we need to do. So we have, actually, let's look at our app here. Bloop and bloop. So in our source components, we start off with our just to walk through from top to bottom. Here's the index HTML that gets grabbed by Webpack. Here's our div ID root, and the index is going to render the app component into the root. This is just a function that it's grabbing the results of and putting in there, doing basically an inner HTML, more or less. But here's our actual thing. So we've got our main app here. We've got our sushi container and a table, and the sushi container contains the belt and a more button. Cool. And then our table contains a bunch of plates and no other components in there. Great. And I'll talk about this a little bit when we get to it. So what are our tasks? Number one, receive the sushi from the server and display in the app. Cool. So I'm going to go to our app here. That's our top level component. So we are going to have all of this data here, and we want to store it in the top level of the app. We want to have it accessible by all the stuff underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and make a state for it. Couple different strategies we can try going forward, but talk about when we get there. So I'm gonna sushis. Nope, that's not right. Sushis, set sushis. And I'm gonna use state hook. And since it's gonna be an array, I'm gonna set it to an empty array to start off with. sometimes I'll see people just start off with undefined or nothing, and then they have trouble with the first render before anything loads. Just make sure if you're setting state for something that's going to be loaded, make sure the thing you're starting it off with is the same shape as the thing you're expecting. It'll save you some trouble down the road. Cool. So we've got that. Let's load up our data. So we have our API here. We know that works. And we're going to do a fetch, but we only want to do it once. So in JavaScript land, we would want to do a fetch. And then when we get our stuff back, we want to set our state and then do our stuff. React re-renders the component every time you use state, which means if we just loaded, just did a fetch, it would do that fetch every time it changed state, which would be a disaster, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to use that effect, use effect. I know some people have had use effect has been tricky, and it's easy just kind of like pattern match and just like do use effect fetch blah blah blah. That's it. As you develop more complex React stuff, you'll probably be playing with use effect a little bit more. And basically, it's just telling React, hey, run this function when you render this component under certain circumstances, when certain state changes. In our case, we wanted to do never, so we're going to say when never state changes. So it is a higher order function, just like most of the hooks, or a lot of hooks. So we're going to give it a function here, and that is the function that's going to run every time the component is re-rendered, unless we tell it not to. And here's where we're going to do our fetch. We're just going to fetch from our API. We're just doing a get from that, so we don't need to give it any options or anything. So we can just chain our then right off of it. Do our JSON dance. And then what? So then we're going to get some JSON, and we want to probably set sushis with the JSON. And since this is a function that is getting JSON passed to it, and then we're just passing it along to set sushis, we can just say set sushis. Always tongue twistery doing this one, and that kind of reads a little bit nicer. Fetch from the API, turn it into JSON, then set the sushis. And again, this is just passing that set sushis function into the then, and that is getting our data back. You can do it this way. You don't have to. I think it reads nicer that way. So that's that. So hopefully that will set our state when it loads up. How do we see if that works? We'll pop open our component browser here and look at app, and what do you know, there's our state. We've got all our sushi in there. Fantastic. Cool. Part 1A is getting that in the container. So let's go back and take a look at how we're doing that. So we have our sushi container. Sushi container has a belt. So one way or the other, we need to get that in there. So I'm just going to pass that along in there in app. So our sushi container, I'm going to call it sushis again. So again, that's going to re-render anytime that data changes. So when we get our new stuff loaded up, so it's going to render with an empty array at the first time, which does nothing. Then when it gets loaded up, it's going to re-render with the sushis that we pass into it. And so let's go ahead and grab that from props. Just deconstruct it like that, destructure it like that. Cool. So now we should be able to see that the sushi container also has some sushis. Hopefully this is all familiar to you so far. If not, say give a holler. Great. So here's where we want to render our sushi components. So We definitely want to display a component for each one of these. And we're going to use a map because right now, Sushi's is just an array of objects. We can't display an array of objects, straight up objects like that. We need to give it an array of components, basically. So we're going to use map to transform the Sushi's array into an array of the same size with each sushi object turned into a component, which is a function that returns some HTML for it. So let's do a Sushi's map. And that's going to take each sushi, and it's going to turn each sushi object into a, we have our sushi component here, sushi, and we need to import that. Cool. So we're going to turn this into a sushi. It's going to do that. We're not passing anything to it yet, so we need to figure out how to pass stuff to it. Let's look inside. So right now it's got props and a bunch of stuff to dump stuff into. So I'm going to just say we're getting a sushi object in there. And then for each sushi object, we're going to pass that in sushi in there. Sushi. Sushi. Finger twister too. Cool. So each one should get a sushi in there. Still not going to display anything, but we can see we've got a bunch of components and each one should have some data in there. We're getting somewhere. Cool. Into the sushi component. So we're deconstructing our object here. So we have something to do something with. And we're just going to fill in all the parts. I'm not going to do the on click yet. I'm not going to do the eaten part yet. I am going to give it the image source, and we can see that is in the image URL there. So our image source is going to be our sushi image URL. So we're getting that from the sushi object that's getting passed in there. The alt is going to be the name. Alt is always important. We need to put the name down here too, it looks like. And we need to give it the price here. So does that work? Yeah, that looks like it works pretty much. This is not necessary, but I just like to, just for clarity, I'm gonna destructure this a little bit more and say, I'm gonna get my image URL, I'm gonna get my name and price out of the sushi there. And I'm just gonna use those like that. So now that's a little bit easier to read. And so destructuring the sushi out from props as I pass it in, and I'm destructuring all of the parameters out of the sushi, so I can just use those without having to type sushi each time. Cool. And there's 100 sushis. Woo. All right. Any questions so far, Lauren? Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. It looks like when you were writing and use state and use effect, you were doing like a shorthand where it was also putting it in the import section at the same time.
Oh yeah, I think I think it's standard when you install the React stuff. If you say like use state, it'll automatically import that for you if you tab into it.
Oh, if you tab in. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and you can just speak up. You don't have to raise your hand. so I can get to you thinking of it. Yeah, feel free to interrupt anytime. Any other questions about the loading and displaying basic stuff here? Awesome. Cool. So done. So here's where we are, the 4 sushi rendered at a time. So let's think about this a little bit. Kind of like the when we were using like filter or you use filter, sort, all those things to if we're like, oh, we have a drop down that's selecting something, we can say, sushi's dot filter stuff that matches that filter, right? So, and again, JavaScript, so lots of different ways to do it. One way to do it, the way that I kind of like to do it is, so one thing that I see often in this and other exercises is people making kind of parallel arrays, and we'll see this more when we get to the Eaton. I like to try to keep the source data as clean as possible. So that means I like to display stuff without necessarily making extra like temporary states and stuff, if that makes sense. So, which means that I have to be comfortable kind of stacking things in there. So what we want to do is take that 100 sushis and only show the first 4. Ideas, or how have folks done it if you've done it?
I mean, I tried to use slice because
Yeah.
I can get slice too if I use index 0 to was it 4 I had to put in?
Yeah.
It showed the first 4.
Yeah.
But then I was trying to figure out from there how to do the rest of them.
We're going to slice from 0 to 4, right? So we're starting at 0 and we'll end just before number 4. And that should give us just 4. Great, fantastic. We did it. Done. Only 4 sushi rendered at a time. We completed that objective. Great. No, it made it harder now. So clicking the button makes us display the next 4 sushi. So again, I think this is a great way to start it. Let's see what we need to do to make the next thing happen. So the button is on the sushi container, right? Yeah, so here's our more button. So since we're probably going to be doing something up top, are we? Is that true? Are we really? So here's what we can do. I think I did this different in the video I sent y'all, but let's do it different here. So I'll show you a different way to do it. So we're still passing the sushis into the sushi container. And I think this time I would like to continue doing that. Again, kind of going with the philosophy of sushi containers going to display sushis however it wants. Maybe it's going to display all of them. Maybe it's going to display 4. Maybe it's going to display the cheap ones. I don't know. It's not my job to know what sushi container is going to do. My job is just to give sushi container a list of sushis and let it figure it out. So here, I'm going to go ahead and just throw that slice right there. So I'm chaining the map off of the slice. So I'm still getting the full array in here, but now I'm saying sushi's slice, get that top 4, and then map over just those 4. Great. And does that still work? Did I break everything? No, it's great. Good. So is there an X there? What's the X there for? Collapse prop value. What's my problem? Strict mode. Who knows? What you're complaining about, buddy? I don't know. Each child should have a unique key. Yes, it should. Absolutely should. Most important thing. So when we're iterating over stuff, each item needs a key, has to be unique. For a lot of reasons, which I'm happy to go into, but basically React uses that key to optimize the rendering. If those keys aren't unique to each one, there's going to be a problem later on down the road. The pernicious problem that some people get into is that people will use the index as a unique ID instead of an ID, which associates an index with a thing, but that thing might change, and big sadness happens because things display that were displayed before and they don't get updated. Big bad. So always use a unique key Fortunately, I think our sushis have unique keys, IDs. Great. So we can do key equals ID. Oh, we don't have an ID. Let's say sushi ID. Great. Get rid of that red warning there. Did we do it? Come on. Did we do it? Yeah. I think we did it. Why you hollering? No hollering? Okay. Like to take care of warnings and stuff as soon as possible because there's always problems down the road. Good code hygiene. So we've moved our slice in here. And this is where our button is. Great. So I'm going to attach a listener to the button. On click equals, I'm going to make a function up here. Handle next, maybe. This is a function. This is going to be handle next. Great. So when I click on that, I should get a nice little console log. Ooh, nope, I didn't. Is it not reloading for some reason? No, I'm just not doing it right for some reason. More button on click equals handle next. What did I do wrong? Handle next, handle next, handle next. That's the log something.
Do we have to pass? Do we have to put the on click like in the more button component?
It's yes, I do. I can't just put it on the component. Thank you. I'm going to pass it down as handle click. How about that? I'm going to grab handle click. Oh, there's fill me in, handle click. I'll do that. I'm calling it handle click instead of show next or whatever. Because again, I'm kind of respecting the autonomy of that component. There's going to be something in there that gets clicked. What it does is not my business. So it's just it's going to handle the click. And I just happen to be passing something that's doing a next in there. So now, yeah, there's our garbage. Great. Thank you. I know how to do React. So handle click buttons hooked up. We don't need to attach that button to anything in particular. So great. But we do need to make it do something. So right now we're slicing from 0 to 4. What are some ways we can make it show us a different slice? Or how about React and buttons and everything aside, just given slice, how do we get it to show a different slice? How do we get it to show a different portion of the array?
I would turn 0 and 4 into a variable potentially. When you click it, you could just add 4 to each. So then it would be like 4 to 8 or 5 to 9 or whatever.
Yeah. So the simple answer is to show different stuff, we change the numbers in there, which exactly like you said, probably a variable. And this is a great example of state being used what it's for. Let's set a state. So say sushi index. Yeah, why not? So we'll use sushi index as a state. We're going to set state, set use state, and import it there for me. And I'm going to set it to 0 to start off with. Cool. And so now since this is 0, I'm going to use sushi index there. This number is also going to change because slice needs indices. And I know there's going to be 4 there. Right now, I'm going to just set a constant. Say sushi shown. And I'm going to set that to 4. And so now I can say sushi index plus sushi shown So now, right now, again, we're refactoring. We want it to behave the same way. And sushi index is 0. And sushi index plus sushi shown is 0 plus 4, which is 4. Should be exactly the same. Great, good, works. Awesome. So, Charlie, great if statement. Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about what you would do with that?
You'd have to set it equal to 0 and count it up by 4 every time you click the button.
Yeah. There's an interesting shift that happens when you kind of go from vanilla JavaScript to something like React or another sort of declarative framework like this. With all the work we did with vanilla JavaScript, it's very sort of like by default procedural. We say, do these things in order, which, and doing ifs and branching and switches and stuff makes a lot of sense there. And React is, you can definitely do stuff that way. React is more kind of like by default declarative, which means that we're just saying what a thing is and then kind of making it be that thing somehow. So we could totally like do some sort of branchy switchy thing in here, but I think it makes I think it reads easier and it feels a little more natural once you get used to React to say what it's going to be and then kind of like work that math around it, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm saying that in the right way. Does that resonate at all? A little bit. Yeah. So instead of saying like, like if this is this, show this. If this is this, show this. If this is this, show this. We want to be able to say like, here's the thing you're showing, and then somewhere else we're manipulating that thing. It's kind of a subtle difference, I think, sometimes. It definitely requires a load of practice to sort of get to be kind of more second nature. Yeah, React and React will trick you like that sometimes. Sometimes there's an easy Reacty functional way to do something that might be big and gross with procedural JavaScript. So if I think the general takeaway there is, if you start doing something, and I've done this so many times, if you start doing something and it feels like way too complicated, see if you can kind of like look at it from the side and find a different way to do it that's a little bit more functional, because that'll probably unravel a lot of those knots. That's really abstract and probably not helpful, but I'm happy to talk about more concrete examples when we get to them. When we get to the eat and stuff, I'm sure we'll see some of that. Rewind. Cool. So we are at the place where we are using our state to set the initial index. So here's our girl magic, which is the 0 index. If we wanted the tsundere to be there first, we could start with an index of 1, right? And that'll just pop it over. Boop. So to move stuff over, we need to change the index. And we want to change the index when they click the button. So here in handle next, I think we can just update the states, right? We can just say set sushi index to sushi index plus, I could say plus 4, but we know how many we're showing. So I could say sushi shown. And so automatically, however big the list is we're showing, it'll show that many. And that will scroll us through the list. And the cool thing about that, like that'll work if we're showing 3. We just need to change one number there and it still works, or 5 or 12. So that almost feels like a little bit of a magic trick. Happened a little fast. So ask some questions about how that works.
I guess it's just a matter of like preference or best practice, but I keep putting like all my state as high up as I can, and then like pass it down to where I need it to.
Yeah.
Should you only go as high as you need to go, or should you try to go as high up as you can?
Yeah.
Just as high as you need to.
Yeah. And again, it's kind of you get a feel for it as you just get more practice working on larger applications. And it's definitely a matter of taste. It's definitely like a design choice. There's no reason we couldn't put these up in app and keep an index up there. I think in the video that I sent out, that's how I do it. I think today I like this way better because it kind of more encapsulates it a little bit more tightly. It says, I'm just giving sushi container the list of sushis to do whatever it wants with. And then the state that we're talking about is the actual state of the component. I think this is where the learning path kind of does folks a bit of a disservice, because we kind of have to learn state this way, but in a real application, that state that we'd have at the top would be outside of the tree, outside of the React application. We'd be using it in a resource management system. So state itself in a real application generally just means the state of this component. And like we can see here, the state of the component is where am I starting the list of sushi that I'm showing. App doesn't really need to know that, and especially if we move, if we're like, oh, we need a fancy frame for sushi container, we're gonna put a fancy frame around it, which means another component, which means we need to pass it down another level. And when you start thinking about like, oh, could I move the sushi container inside the table or whatever, the reason you want that stuff contained is the same reason you want to keep your variables in a function contained, right? It's the more self-contained they are, the easier they are to move around and refactor, which you will be doing as you work inevitably. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great.
That said, the other way is not wrong. So rule 1, if it works, great. This is rule 2 level. It's easier to work with. Cool. Other questions about the sort of mechanics involved here? Cool. Yeah. And
I feel like this is kind of what I tried to do, but you setting a constant that was equal to 4 that we could reuse, like I didn't even think to do that.
And really that's general good practice in general. It really sunk in for me. There's I don't think I have it on this computer, but the sort of code checker, the linter or whatever it is, you can change the settings on that and you can make it super strict. And so I worked for a few years and I'd set my my linter to be like incredibly strict. And so anytime I would have like a number floating out here, so I was like, oh, sushi plus 4 and sushi plus 4 here, it would be like no numbers except for 1 and 0. That's not in a constant. If you're using a number, put it in a constant, no magic numbers. And so that's just like got beaten into me by my editor. But yeah, it's in general, if you're using a number more than once, throw it in a constant, because or even if you're just using it once, sometimes especially if it's like a specific thing, like, oh, this is like the number of pixels this is off, or this is the color or something. You want to have that in a place that's easily accessible instead of buried down in your code somewhere. Why is sushi shown in all caps? That's just it's one of many kind of idioms. If there's like a constant that's like a number, I tend to put it in all caps. You'll see that in some places. Some places don't care. It's just habit. And so when I'm looking at my code down here, I'm like, because sushi shown is declared somewhere up here, and if this is off the page, I can look at this and be like, oh, that's just a constant that's declared somewhere. I don't need to worry about it.
So I see, it's just like a readability thing, so you know what is just a constant number.
Yeah, and again, different people have different ways they like to do that. Do whatever works for you or the team that you're working with. Awesome. Other questions? Cool. So that looks pretty good so far. What's next? Clicking on a plate will eat the sushi. All right. Causing it to be removed from its plate and an empty plate to appear on the table. Cool. So there's a lot of stuff happening in that one small sentence, right? I have some strong ideas about how I like to do this. Have any of you tried this part or done it or have thoughts about what you might want to do with it? Yeah. I think this one is, I don't think we really go over it in any of the like explicitly in any labs and stuff. I think it's kind of like it's a kind of leap you have to make that you'll definitely be using over and over again once you make that leap. And that's where I come in. I think that's me pushing you to do that. So one thing that I'll see a lot is that, so we've got the event listener hooked up somewhere, clicks and does something up here. Something I'll see people do a lot, even after I show them other ways to do it, and it's fine because it works, is making a separate state. So they'll have like const, eaten sushis. I'm not gonna eaten sushis. And so they'll have a separate list that has the list of sushis that were eaten, and then they'll do some logic here that's like, oh, if it's in that list, don't show it, and if it is, put it in the table. And it's one of those things where, yeah, filtering is great. Filtering is a really good idea. The making a separate array, you'll definitely see that in, I think, on the code challenge, maybe even, but definitely in a lot of places, especially in your own projects, where if you're keeping like duplicate copies of your data that you have to like synchronize when different things happen. Again, if it works, it works. It's a lot of extra work and a lot of extra like surface for bugs to live on. So I don't like to do it that way. What I do like to do, so let's talk about what it's asking. Well, let's look at the requirement first. Just the first part. Clicking a sushi on a plate will eat the sushi. So we have a piece of sushi that is either eaten or not, right? We can change the state of this piece of sushi that we are holding to eaten. And in the real world, we can't do it the other way around, but in the computer world, we can. So whether a sushi is eaten or not is kind of an attribute of that sushi. It's part of that thing that it is. So the way that I like to do it, so we're getting these objects here. Right now, none of them say whether they're eaten or not, but they're just JavaScript objects, and I can do what I like to JavaScript objects. So I would like to add a new key on here, a new attribute that is eaten. That's true or false. And then I can do what Chippy said. We can do some filtering. So let's see what that looks like first. So I've got my sushi here. I need to click a thing. So I'm going to work inside out now. I'm going to say handle sushi click, handle sushi click. Well, on click is going to be, what's it going to be? I'm going to make another function. Am I going to do that here? No, I'm going to call it on click eat sushi. Great, and that's going to be a function I pass in. So, and this is the encapsulation thing, right? When I click it, I'm going to call a function called eat sushi. I'm going to get that from whoever I am contained by. I don't care what it is or how it works. I just know that when I get clicked, I'm going to call that function, and somehow magically outside my component, it's going to happen. So looks like since it's in a sushi container, we need to do the garbage thing where we're passing stuff down. Eat sushi, and then we're going to add it to each here. Eat sushi equals eat sushi. Cool. So now sushi container knows someone's giving me an eat sushi function. I'm gonna have to call that in there. It's gonna need a little tweak, but we'll get there. So in app, I'm gonna write my eat sushi function here. Something, and I'm going to pass it in here. Eat sushi. Great. So if I've done everything okay, I should be able to click on a sushi and it'll holler at me. Great. Cool. So I've got a function, I've wired it down, and it works now.
Can you go back to there, right there, real quick, just for 1 second? No, to the app component.
Mm-hmm. You have a question about?
No, I'm just coding along. I'm good. Thank you.
Oh yeah, cool. So cool. So this is just a function that's getting called. We are going to need to know which sushi is getting passed though. So I could take an ID. I think this time I'm going to just take the whole sushi. There. So console log eating sushi. So right now it's going to be undefined because I'm not passing anything in. It's going to give me the event, right? Because the click event gets passed. So I don't actually want to pass in the event. So I'm still passing just that function down. Passing the function down. I think in the sushi is where I need to do a little bit of tweaking here. So eat sushi is still that same function. It takes a sushi object. Right now it's getting past the event though, which is not what we want. But we can just write a little function here to take care of that. So this is going to be the event handler function. And instead of just passing it the eat sushi function raw, instead of just passing that unaltered, I'm actually going to write a little function here that calls eat sushi with sushi ID. If I know how to type. So now when we click, the click handler is going to pass the event to this whole function here, but we don't care about it. We're just letting it go. And all this function is saying call eat sushi with, not sushi ID, with the whole sushi. So pass whatever sushi is sent to this sushi component to that function. And again, notice it doesn't care that it's inside the sushi container. It doesn't care that it's inside the app. All it knows is that I'm going to call something, I'm going to pass the sushi to it, and it's going to do the thing. So in theory, if we click here, it should give us the sushi we're clicking on. Great. Now, all we need to do is tell it that it's eaten. And the way we're going to do that is actually adding an eaten thing to it. So if this was just a vanilla JavaScript, we could say something like sushi eaten is true. Great. Equals true. Great. That looks like great JavaScript. What happens if we click something? Nothing, because, well, absolutely nothing now. Because it's not doing anything. Why isn't it doing anything now? Oh, because I'm not console logging anything. This isn't going to change anything on the screen though, because we're just changing a variable, but React doesn't care about any of that. React only cares about its own state. Very selfish. So React re-renders when the state changes. So in order to change this display, we need to change the state, and it'll update the display for us. So the only kind of tricky bit here is updating one attribute in a big list of things. So how do we update the state? It's set sushis. Cool. We need to set it to a new list, a new array of sushis. we're not removing or adding anything, so it's going to be the same size. So I think a map is in order. Ooh, no, I'm going to call it S instead of sushi because we're already using sushi. So I want to, and again, I don't know how much this has been hammered into, but I'm going to hammer a little bit more. We can never update state. We can't update state. We can't, back up, reverse. We can't alter the state. We always have to update it, which means that we're never changing stuff in the state. We are throwing out state and replacing it with a new state. Even if it is an array of 10,000 things and we're just changing one attribute on one of those objects, we have to replace the whole thing. Fortunately, React is really great about stashing stuff, so it's not that inefficient. But JavaScript, we don't care about it. So I'm going to replace the current sushi's array with an identical copy, except for one that has an eaten.true property on it. Chris points out that there's no eaten property on those objects. Some languages care about that. JavaScript does not give a fuck about what it has or it doesn't. You can add any attributes to any object you want. If you want to say in JavaScript, like document my favorite sandwich is peanut butter, you can do that. And document is just an object, so you can add whatever you want to it. It can be a mess, but it also lets you do stuff like this. So preferences. So we want to map. We're going to change each sushi into the same thing unless it's the one we want to update. In that case, we're going to replace it with a new one. So how do we know which one we're looking for though? Well, we've got our sushi here. Each one has an ID, so I'm going to look at the IDs. So I'm going to say if sushi ID is the same as the current ID, question mark. So if they're the same, I'm going to replace it with a copy of that one with the eaten equals true. Otherwise, I'm just going to return the same one back. I'm not going to change it. So how do I make, because I can't just say, hey, take this one and add it, because React reacts badly to that sometimes. So I need to create a new object. So I'm going to actually use destructuring to do that, or the spread operator to do that. I'm going to spread out. So basically spread, don't know how much you've been hammered with this. This is an empty object, curly brackets. This is just a brand new, unique, empty object. That's what we want to start with. Spread, 3 dots, takes our current sushi and inserts the key value pairs from that object into our new object. So this is an easy way to make a copy of an object. Otherwise, because objects are reference variables, things can get messy. So we're just going to spread it out and say eaten true. So this is saying, again, and this is the trickiest part in the whole thing. We are setting the state, which is the list of sushis, to the current list of sushis, transformed in such a way that each one, we're going to look at it. If it's the one we're looking for, we're going to replace it with a new object that contains the same stuff, except for one more attribute that is eaten true. Otherwise, it's going to be replaced with the same one and everything is fine. Is that going to work? Who knows? Let's find out. I'm going to do a component looky here. So here's our sushi, and I can look at that there. So that's the sushi that's passed down into it. That's our Maguro magic. So right now there's no eaten attribute on this here. If I click this, if I did everything right, so it looks like it's just added and eaten there, right? misleading. It has replaced the entire array of sushi, all 100 things, with a new array with map that's all the same ones, except for one new one that we've made a copy of and added this eaten true onto. That's a lot conceptually to get your head around, I think. And although this reads like English to me because I've been doing it for a very long time, it takes a little bit to pull apart. I recommend taking a look at this because you need to be comfortable with maps. You need to be comfortable with passing functions into a map. You need to be comfortable with ternary operators, and you need to be comfortable with spread operators, and with the concept of not changing state, but updating it. But once you kind of take the time to, again, I was not born knowing this. It took me a while to figure this out, and a lot of playing around with different ways to do it. And again, this is one way to do it. You can definitely do it different ways. Yeah, as long as you're updating the state in a reasonable way, and it works great. This is one of many ways to do it. But I think it exercises a lot of the things that you'll be using a lot, because you're going to see this kind of pattern very often, especially when you start working with arrays of objects. They have to manage with state. In a state management system, a little of this is taken away, but right now, this is the kind of thing we need to. So I would say, look at this one line, this line 12 here, and kind of pull it apart completely and trying to understand all the bits and pieces. It's dense, but it's definitely worth studying for sure. Did I hear someone have a question?
Yeah. Okay, so I figured out the next part. For online 12, how come syntactically you can't put the curly braces around the execution context within the arrow function? So on line 12, right after the arrow to the end of that line, how come you can't put curly braces around that like you normally? So just, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like after sushi map S, and then you have the arrow in between the arrow and the parentheses to the end of the line. In like a lot of arrow functions, you can just do.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You can usually do curly braces there, but you can't in this case.
Like here, right?
Yeah, or yeah, exactly. Or if you did filter on the new sushi's array, you could end an if statement in there with an arrow. You could do curly braces in there again.
Yeah, so that that execution context is only implemented inside JSX. So this is just regular JavaScript. This would work. You know, this function would still be valid JavaScript if we weren't using React, right? This is just plain old regular JavaScript.
But so for the next part, you're going to take Sushi's, which has now been updated. Yep. And each one that you've clicked on gets the eaten property. So I called filter on that. And then I just did if bang sushi dot eaten. So if it doesn't have that, return true. So then you just get the array back with everything that doesn't have the eaten property on it. And then I pass that down into my sushi container. But my question is, in the sushis dot filter, in that if I can use the brackets after the arrow.
Oh yeah. You can nest content.
Is it just because that whole arrow function, that map and everything in it is going inside as a parameter? That's just the syntax of it. That's just how it.
Yeah.
just gotta remember that's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's look at what you're talking about here. So we've updated our sushi's array here, and now we want to actually do something with it. So let's go one step at a time here. So we've eaten the sushi, so we need to remove it from the plate. And fortunately, I think there's a little thing that will help us in here. Cool. So there's already a ternary in here. And so this is this is the value that's being put in our JSX, right? And so it's saying if some condition is false, don't display anything. Otherwise, put this image in. So I'm just going to change this condition to if eaten, pull that out. So this is saying if the sushi is eaten, don't display anything. Otherwise, put this piece of JSX in it. And we can use the curly braces inside that because this is another piece of JSX. Does that make sense? Yeah. So let's see if that works. Am I lying? Hey, look at that. They go away now. And there's more sushi over here. Cool. Cool. So now we're just using that eaten thing in the rest of the components because we've set it. And we want to do the thing with the plates too. So that's going to be on the table. And so this is super unclear. I think it takes a while to read through it. Basically, all we need to do is pass in an array of plates. So if we put it, 1, 2, 3, 4, we just need to pass in an array, and however many things are in that array, it's going to put that many plates on the table. So what we need to do is give this our table as plates. So we need to pass it some plates. And again, if we wanted to just do like 1, 2, 3, if it was an array, it'll put 3 plates on the table. It doesn't care what's in the array, it just cares the size of the array. And we've made this really easy for ourselves now. So we can say, we're going to give it sushis. And if we just gave it sushis unfiltered, 100 plates. Great, good stuff. We don't want 100 plates yet. So we just want an array with the sushis that have been eaten. So like you were saying, we're going to filter it. And we're going to say if it is eaten. So we're taking the sushis array with 100 things in it, 100 plates. We're going to filter it down. And the only things we're showing are the pieces of sushi that have eaten as true. So it should be 0 now. And as we click, don't ask why the plates are still up there. It's magic. And so again, like, because we're just setting this eaten state on our object, it's more conceptually sort of congruent to the actual physical object. We have a piece of sushi, it is eaten. We have a sushi object, it has an eaten property, even though we're adding that ourselves. Not only because it makes it easier to think about, which is a good rule 2 thing, but it makes it pleasant to work with. So we can pass it in here, we can filter it, we can do all sorts of stuff like that. Again, this is the most complex part of the whole thing. I don't know if there's anything that complex on the code challenge, but there might be, I'm not sure. But either way, this is a pattern that you're going to see often, even if you don't write it yourself. So study this line, ask questions about it, and we'll help you get it. Repetition. Where are we? Just over and
I have a little question about that step that we just did.
Yeah.
How does like the number of plates on the table like happen? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how I know to put
so
one plate each time,
yeah, so it's just
for each click.
It's just taking in an array, and so it's doing this function here is taking the array and mapping each thing in the array, no matter what it is, to a div with the plate image. That's the empty plate style, and then using some CSS magic to just offset it a little bit. The only thing it really cares about is how many things are in the plates array that you pass it. Everything inside is just CSS It's a little garbagey, but it's fine. But yeah, the thing that we want to do is know the size of the array that we're passing in. That's the important part. Yeah, this is a fun little trick. I don't think I'd ever do that. Oh, I don't know. I might be forced to do that in a real application sometime, but I wouldn't be happy about it. Awesome. Any other questions about this stuff before we do the last bit?
So again, what Victoria was asking, I guess, where is it getting that number?
Yeah, so it is getting the number from the array that we're passing in. So we're just passing in an array, right? Again, if we pass in the whole sushi's array, what did I do there? That, nope. Oh no, I messed everything up. There we go. If we pass in the whole sushi's array somehow, there it is. That has 100 things in it, so it's going to put 100 plates on it. If we pass in, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to have 4 plates in it. So what we're doing is filtering on the eaten property. So it's saying I'm going to take the full sushi's array, and I'm going to return a new array that has the items from that array in it that this function returns true for. So it's going to look at each one and say, is the dot eaten on that true? If so, it's in the array. So if we've eaten 3 things, that array is going to have 3 objects in it, and it's going to display 3 plates.
So just sorry. And then if you go back over to table, then in the, and it is, so I guess, because usually I would use length, right? I would like that's
yeah, and that's
what I'm looking for. I'm like, where's the length property that tells me how many plates I need?
Yeah, and so that's what the map is doing. The map is saying change each object in that array to a div component and put that on the page.
And that's so in the parameters of map there, the underscore index is doing that.
Yeah, so it's basically the underscore is just saying it doesn't care what it is, because we're not actually using the object.
Right.
All it cares about is the index, so it can offset it a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's hit the money part. When sushi is eaten, they get charged. We'll give them a budget. So this is probably gonna be up in the app. I'm gonna set the budget in state. Money. And we'll set to I don't know. Well, how much does the sushi cost? I forget. No, I don't know. Let's say $20 for now. For ease.
Some of them are $20.
Oh well, let's set it to $100 then. There we go. So we're gonna start off with $100. Great. So we need to, when the sushi is eaten, so when it's clicked on, and conveniently enough, we have an eat sushi function here. We need to subtract that number. Oh, and we're displaying it in the table. Great. So you have blank remaining. So since we have money here, we can pass, I assume it's going to be money. You have money. You have money remaining, and we're going to destructure that out. So that's a prop we're going to be passing in. So let's pass money in here. Money. And so it should say 100 now. Great. So we're just straight up passing that through. Nothing tricky. And so now when we eat the sushi, we want to pay for the sushi. So sushi has a price. Is that right? Is it price? Price. Great. So easy. This is just state stuff. So we're just going to set money to money minus sushi.price. Money minus. There we go. Cool. So this is just straight up state stuff. We set state that has the amount of money. We're displaying it in this component. And when the sushi is eaten, we know what sushi is coming down. So we're just going to subtract that price and set the new state. Does it work? Looks like it. All right. And so we can eat as much sushi as we want. We are the government. We can spend money or something. I don't know. So that's just straight up state stuff. Any questions about that? Did you have a question, Joey? Okay, awesome. Cool. And so the last bit is you got to pay for it. So if you don't have enough money in it, we don't eat. And again, we've conveniently done this eat sushi. So I want to do, this is where an if is going to come in handy, right? I'll do if true right now. So if whatever condition we set here is true, we're going to eat the sushis. So still works, great. So the condition we want is if the cost of the sushi, sushi price, if the sushi price is greater than the amount of money we have, then we can eat it. Otherwise, we don't do anything. So does it work? Nope. What did I do? Sushi price is greater than money. Sushi dot price is greater than money.
I think you want it less than, right? Like
Sushi
less than the
price,
money.
less than money. Yes, you're right. Less than or equal to. Because we want to be able to buy. See if I can get it to work on the dot. It's 30. There's 15. We want to still eat that one. Yeah, we can't eat that. No sushi for us. Cool. And so that's just JavaScript. That's just math. Nothing tricky about that. Cool. That last part was super easy. I'm not gonna worry about the bonus stuff. So that is a whirlwind tour through Sushi Saga. I don't think the code challenge is as hard as this. I think this is definitely this is your CrossFit, your React CrossFit. Definitely going to be a workout, especially this stuff. Takes a while, takes some practice, and just sort of like literally like when I was like working this out the first couple times, I literally had to like break it out. I was like, okay, cool. Here's my first part of the thing. Here's the second. Okay, and then this is going to be, I don't know. Like just pull it apart, see if you can figure out what each little part does, because there's a lot of pieces. You'll get it eventually. It's just a matter of repetition. So yeah, that's going to be the whole thing, I think, as far as we go here. Any questions? And this is not your last opportunity to ask questions. I'll be happy to talk about it like at any time.
I'm still stuck. For some reason, it's not like I have all these errors and I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
What are your errors saying?
Cannot read properties of undefined, like reading map. Maybe
so
like
whatever you're calling map on is undefined. Are you setting the array to an empty array to start off with?
Yes.
Okay.
I just feel like it might be like maybe the namings, because sushis, it's so hard because sushi is plural and can be singular. It's just such a hard thing. Like with
this domain is.
I feel like some of that's messed up. So it's okay. I'll probably figure it out later. Yeah,
that error, and that's a common JavaScript thing people struggle with a lot, I think, because it says map is not a function on undefined, and it makes you feel like the map thing is broken, but really what's saying is the object that you're calling map on, like sushi's here, is undefined. So that means somewhere before that, we don't have the value that we think we do. So I'm a big fan of just console logging everything out. And I bet if you put a console log before that step, sushis or whatever that variable is going to be undefined. And it's just a matter of pulling that string and tracing it back to see where it's missing. It might be like maybe it's not getting passed as an attribute, or the names are not matching. There's a lot of places for it to go wrong really easily. You watch me code. I know. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It takes a while to make everything match up.
Do you mind hopping over to the sushi container real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Gotta take that screenshot. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Other questions?
Yeah, I can't get mine to go away after I click it. I got everything else going, but it's still there after I click it.
So if you either inspect it or console log it in the sushi component, is that eaten true? And if so, are you checking for the right thing there?
There it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, it's always like the thing that gets me the most, and you've seen me do it, I'm sure, is like not naming the property the same on the outside as on the inside, or there's lots of little things that can catch you up. It's just a matter, like, the more mistakes, like, honestly, keep making mistakes, keep struggling with it. The more mistakes you make, the fewer you're going to make in the future, because you'll be like, oh yeah, I named it wrong. I've done that 1,000 times. It's not a matter of not making mistakes. It's a matter of catching your mistakes quickly. And that's where I live. Making mistakes all the time and hopefully catching them before it's too bad. Awesome. Anything else? Cool. Get out of this screen share. Sweet. I think this one's super fun. I think it exercises a lot of stuff that you're going to be using in every React app, code challenge or not. So yeah, build and burn this a few times. It's dense, but if you can knock this out, you'll be well set for pretty much anything React. So cool. I'll post the video in the usual places. And I'll see you in like 10 minutes for stand down. Cool. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you real soon.